Hey everybody, this is Chris, and this is my first video for Econ Web. Today we're just going to go over a simple supply and demand graph, just to kind of get some understanding of how this looks. So the first thing is I'm just going to draw out the graph. We have the supply going upward we have to imagine that there's a zero here. This is price. This is infinity. This is quantity. And this is infinity. And what we see is that as things move away from zero, they're going towards infinity. So it's adding to the overall quantity. And the same thing here is it's adding to the overall price. So the law of supply states that as the price increases, the quantity that suppliers want to supply increases as well. This is why it's an upward sloping graph. I'm going to erase these guys down here and over here because now the opposite is true for demand. We're going to do the demand curve over here. This means at a high price, we want few. One, maybe two, right? But at a low price, so if price is $1, then we want many, 100. Okay, that's kind of how that works. So let me go ahead and I'm going to remove these guys as well, just so we can talk a little bit more about this graph. At the middle point here, that is equilibrium. That is where price one will equal quantity one. And the thing about these is these two graphs can shift, the curves, the supply and the demand curve. So the supply curve can shift outward to supply one. It can shift inward to supply two. And what this means is that the built-in supply of the market will shift outward from zero or in towards zero, meaning there's increase in supply or a decrease. So whenever we say an increase, we are going away from zero. And whenever we say a decrease, we are going towards zero. Okay? Same can happen with the demand curve. And I'm going to erase these supply curves and we're going to jump into the demand curve with blue. The demand curve can shift backwards to D1. That means it's a decrease in demand. We're going back towards zero. Or it can shift outwards to D2, which is an increase in demand. It's going out from zero. So these are just the basics of what this graph, this supply and demand curves look like in a basic Econ 101 course. And one thing to consider on this is when we have an increase in demand, let's say we were stuck in our houses for several months and we wanted to go out to our local place in town to eat. What happened? Well, the demand curve shifted outward. And so if we were to look at this and this were a labor market for the workers at your local restaurant, what we see here is that the price point at the previous location, because demand shifted outward, it climbed up the supply curve. And now we have this new, I'll do it in black here, this new price point. And remember, price for labor equals wage. Okay. So we had this new price point and we demanded a higher quantity of workers. And this is why we saw, after we were all stuck inside for a long time, that higher wage start prevailing in those restaurant and those service jobs because the demand was there and the businesses were just trying to meet this demand. Okay, so that's just kind of a quick example of how this works out. Just keep an eye out for some of my other videos on different aspects of economics. I'm going to try to do some more on the basics, but I'm also going to try to do some more on just news stories, and we're going to talk through it using kind of some economic reasoning. Thanks, guys.